Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in 1 Samuel chapter 8. In verse 1 we read that Samuel grew old, and then he appointed his sons to be judges. Unfortunately, his sons did not walk in his ways. Instead, they decided that they would go after dishonest gain, and they accepted bribes to look the other way. They perverted justice. So, because Samuel was old, and the elders were seeing what was taking place, they came to Samuel and they said, "Since you are old and your sons do not follow in your ways, we want to have a king like all the other nations." When Samuel heard this, he became angry and he went to God. That's always the very best thing that we can do whenever we are angry, whenever we're uncertain or we need direction, is to stop and to pray. And that's exactly what Samuel did. As he prayed and he went to God, then God answered. God told him, "Now listen to the people and give them what they want. They're not rejecting you, but they're rejecting me as their king." God wanted Israel to be totally different than all other people. He wanted them to stand out. God wanted other people to marvel at Israel because they had God, the creator of heaven and earth, as their king. God wanted them to be following him, and as other people looked at them, they would know that God hears their prayers, that God goes with them, that God fights for them, that he protects them, and he provides for them. Moses said to God in Exodus chapter 33, verse 15, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me or your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me or your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" It was only God's presence that would make the difference. God told Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 that "I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and those that bless you, then I will bless them. But those that curse you, then they will be cursed. And all people on earth will be blessed because of you." God wanted to be their king so that everyone would see how blessed Israel was and that they would be drawn to seek him and then to serve him. Back to Samuel chapter 8. God then told Samuel to warn the people. In verse 11, he said, "Tell them that this is what the king will do." As you read through these verses, you will see the words "he will take" 6 different times. The king, he will take your children to serve him. He will take the best of your property and give it to those that he likes. He will take a percentage of your profits and your produce. He will take the best of what is yours for himself. He will take a percentage of all of your provisions. He will take, and his taking will become oppressive and excessive. Sounds very much like today, doesn't it? Well, why did this happen? It's because they chose a king rather than God. And because they rejected God, God then said, when the king's taking becomes obsessive and excessive, when you cry out, you're going to be on your own. Well, the people, they naively thought that they would be better off serving a king rather than trusting God. They even thought in verse 20 that, well, a king will lead us, and a king will go before us, and a king will fight our battles. The problem is, with carnal people, they're self-centered. And so they will only think of their own interests. They will take care of themselves, and they will follow their own desires. They will use people for their own ends. They will experience that then, and we still see it today. Well, God gave them what they wanted. He gave them a king. What is one thing that we can learn from 1 Samuel chapter 8? One lesson would be that God wanted them, and he wants us, to think through our decisions, to count the cost, to make informed decisions, because we need to be aware of the consequences. Why? Ultimately, we are responsible, and we will be held accountable for our decisions and our actions. So before you or I make a decision, we need to stop and we need to pray. We need to seek God's wisdom. We need to search out his word and his will. And then we need to submit to God's will because he always knows what is best. I'm reminded of what we read in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.